Welcome to another great episode of the Dadpuzzles Podcast. Today we are thrilled to introduce to you a guest who redefines what it means to be a father figure, and he's not just a stepdad, but he's has helped to raise seven children spanning from the ages of 17 to 33 while navigating the unique challenges and rewards of a blessed family. So his journey is a testament to the power of love, resilience, and the ability to create the meaningful connections in a non-traditional fatherhood role. So, my friend, so please get ready to some incredible insights on fatherhood, family dynamics, and also what it truly means to be a dad. To be a dad without that biological link, not necessary. The father figure. Welcome, my friend.
Oh man, Suli, thank you so much, brother. What a privilege just to come on your show and just share with people.
Hmm.
One of my greatest journeys in
Hmm.
life is being a
Right.
dad. It's something I always wanted to be, and I've been blessed, as you said, to help raise seven children
Right.
that are not my biological kids,
Hmm.
but they are still mine.
Right.
And it's a whole different journey and animal as a stepdad than a biological father. So, yeah, man, I'm excited to get into this today and chew it up and,
That's right.
kind of see where it takes us.
Oh man, because this is amazing. Thanks so much for doing this because like I always like to have folks from different walks of lives to share their background and that way somebody out there can relate. This is
Yeah.
amazing. So thank you so much for doing this. So you know now we have elections. We have President Trump, and then we have Harris. They all have they have they're sharing something common about a blended family. So how does that work? In terms of the the society. A lot of times, folks, like you have people they misunderstand about the stepdads. And so how can folks today maybe can you share with us, like folks today about that? Because like thankfully it's becoming more common, and maybe
Yes.
like so
Yes.
this is good.
No, great question. I mean, I
Hmm.
think when I was growing up, uh, it was rare
Hmm.
when you would hear, "Oh, somebody's parents got divorced," right?
Hmm.
I mean, it was a little more rare back then. And then as I got older, it just seemed like that percentage started to grow, right?
Hmm.
In terms of people going through divorce, and
Hmm.
obviously it creates these blended family situations.
Right.
A lot of times with a blended family, you'll have a man that marries a woman, and they both have children
Right.
that come into the blended family, kind of like the old Brady Bunch show, right? It's been
Hmm.
around for a long time.
Right.
They first introduced the blended family to
Hmm.
kind of the public in general
Hmm.
in our consciousness based upon a television show and how they blended it so well. And where they did address some issues on the
Hmm.
show, I think
Hmm.
in a lot of ways they didn't. And it's hard. It's a TV show. There's a lot of humor there, but at the
Hmm.
end of the day, I mean, there's no way for them to drill down and really in the nitty gritty of what it's like to have a blended family.
Hmm.
I think nowadays, my children, they talk about their high school friends that the majority, unfortunately, of
Hmm.
their friends
Hmm.
are coming from divorced families. Sometimes there's been a second marriage or a third marriage, and so there's
Hmm.
a blended family situation.
Right.
I think the biggest misconception about stepdads that I've ever run across in the
Hmm.
last several years, because
Hmm.
I've been a stepdad since 2006. So
Hmm.
goodness, I mean that's 18 years now.
Hmm.
Um, is that stepdads marry the mom because they're all in love with her,
Hmm.
and so they're all in 100%. I'm going to buy into this marriage,
Hmm.
but I'm just going to be like, oh, but there's kids,
Hmm.
right? So I'll deal
Hmm.
with the kids,
Hmm.
right? Like it's not like I'm marrying into a family.
Hmm.
I'm marrying the mom, but I'm also making just as deep a commitment to
Hmm.
the children as I am to her. And I think the misconception is, and unfortunately, there is some truth to it sometimes
Mm-hmm.
that men are saying, I'm all in for her,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm just willing to put up with the kids for as long as they're here, right? Until
Mm-hmm.
we get them out of high school or whatever. So I think that's the biggest misconception I've run across. And
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I really wanted my kids to know
Mm-hmm.
right up front, that where I love your mother, I'm marrying your mother, right? I'm in this for the long haul with her.
Right.
At the same time, I'm committing to you as well.
Right.
So, the good, the bad, and the ugly, I'm committing to you as well,
Mm-hmm.
as your dad. And I think that really helps them relax
Right.
and be able to trust that this thing is not going to be a temporary thing, but
Right.
actually, have some sustainability to it.
Oh, amazing. Thank you. Yeah, actually that kind of transition easily to my next usual thing that we face. Like kids nowadays, they talk back. Like thankfully yours they already have. Like 17 is the youngest. But when they're younger, like sometimes they like to talk back, and sometimes they can talk some hurtful things during those bad those tough moments. They can be like, oh, for instance, oh, you're not my real dad, that kind of thing. You know,
Right.
so it's like
Right.
when you have that kind of information, like that kind of talk, how do you try to build that strong relationship, along with that.
So you're going to be stunned when I say what I'm about to say.
Mm-hmm.
Out of 7 children that
Mm-hmm.
I've helped raise, not one time have I had one of them say to me, "You're not my real dad."
Amazing.
Now, let me tell you why I think that is not the norm.
Mm-hmm.
Because from day one,
Mm-hmm.
I invested heavily into my relationship with them. See,
Nice.
a parent can be one of three things: we
Mm-hmm.
can be available,
Mm-hmm.
involved, or invested.
Mm-hmm.
Available, that's the guy that comes in after work, sits on the couch watching
Mm-hmm.
TV.
Mm-hmm.
Kid says, "Hey, I need help with this. I'll get to it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll maybe help you with your homework sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I'll maybe help you pick out your clothes sometimes."
I'm
That you're just
busy.
available. You're around, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm busy, right? Hey, you want to shoot baskets in the driveway?
Right.
Maybe later,
Mm-hmm.
maybe tomorrow. You're available. It just means you're in the room, really.
Right.
I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
all it really means.
Right.
Um, and then involved, it's like, yeah, sometimes I'll get involved,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I won't. But
Mm-hmm.
that inconsistency, just like me leaning in and out of the camera,
Right.
it makes us uncomfortable. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Sean, stay right here at the camera, quit moving.
Right.
So with the inconsistency
Mm-hmm.
of being involved,
Mm-hmm.
it's like when a parent's just available, the kid
Mm-hmm.
knows I can't trust that. So they don't even try. When
Mm-hmm.
you're involved, you're back and forth, it
Mm-hmm.
creates uncertainty. It's a roller coaster, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
But when you're invested, even though it still takes time for them
Mm-hmm.
to buy in and trust it, they see a consistency,
Right.
which is what all kids need. The number one thing they need in a blended family is consistency.
Right.
So by being invested in them and
Mm-hmm.
saying, look, man, like I told you, I'm
Mm-hmm.
all in for her, but I'm also all in for you.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it took time based upon the child for the
Right.
different levels of buy in,
Mm-hmm.
I never heard "you're not my real dad" because I think people that hear "you're not my real dad" are guys that are available
Mm-hmm.
or involved,
Right.
but they're trying to bring authority and
Mm-hmm.
expect respect like they're invested,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, we have to parent from a 360-degree understanding. We
Mm-hmm.
can't just be like it's my way or the highway
Right.
and then not have a loving side, not have a side that's full of grace and mercy, not have a side that is guiding someone and
Right.
guarding someone.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's people that only try to govern, right? I'm just going
Right.
to govern you. I'm going to
Right.
tell you what to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to guide you in love or guard you to make you feel safe. I
Right.
think those are the parents that get that "you're not my real dad" or "you're not my real mom," right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I've been fortunate
Mm-hmm.
that the kids have seen, okay, I think this guy, he's serious about this, right?
Right.
Kids will act up. They'll try to
Mm-hmm.
get you to test you. I'm
Right.
going to prove that you love me.
Mm-hmm.
Prove that you love me.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we just keep coming back and we show our consistency, and
Right.
I'm not saying that it's easy.
Right. Oh yeah.
I'm saying it's a choice
Right.
every single day. Sometimes
Sacrifice.
it's a choice that's made multiple times
Mm-hmm.
a day.
Mm-hmm.
I literally, you're going to laugh at this. I
Mm-hmm.
literally filmed a video this
Mm-hmm.
morning of an empty butter container.
Okay.
Now I know this is a silly thing,
Mm-hmm.
but we have two different kinds of butter in our family because I had a heart attack in 2019. So I
Mm-hmm.
get unsalted,
Right.
everybody else gets salted.
Right.
So the kids all cook. They're
Mm-hmm.
all really good cooks. But all the time when I go to make something for their mother and I open up her and it's empty, I'm like, "Oh, come on, man.
Why
It
nobody
can't be
told you?
that."
Uh-huh.
Right, right,
Mm-hmm.
right. So I made her toast this morning. It was empty. So I filmed a real funny video
Mm-hmm.
where I start with the empty butter dish, and I'm like, "How do we solve this mystery?"
Mm-hmm.
Ah, and I walk to the fridge and I get the thing out and I unwrap it and I put it in there, and I'm like, "Oh, mystery solved."
Mm-hmm.
It's just so, so I do fun stuff like that to
Mm-hmm.
remind them. It's like, "Come on, man,
Mm-hmm.
just don't be lazy. Refill
Mm-hmm.
the butter dish." And
Right.
someone says, "Well, that's such a small thing. Why
Mm-hmm.
would you choose that?" Because it's a life lesson.
Right.
It's no different than
Mm-hmm.
be consistent. Change
Right.
the oil in your car,
Right.
right? Before you end up with an engine problem.
Big time.
I mean, it starts small, but it ends up being big in terms of life lessons and how we parent. So I think that's what people run into.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I start out from day one saying, I'm going to be invested, I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to be consistent. Now,
Okay.
listen to me, it's not about perfection.
Mm-hmm.
None of us are perfect parents,
Right.
but it is about a direction that we're taking our lives and their lives based
Mm-hmm.
upon that, just showing them. And then when we make mistakes, we apologize. Hey, I wasn't
Right.
very consistent today, or I dropped the ball on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they see a consistency in that as well, which proves to them once again, man, this guy really is all in with me.
Right.
So that's what brings safety, and that
Amazing.
what is allows a child to relax in a blended family situation,
Mm-hmm.
and then that dynamic can get pretty powerful.
Amazing, amazing. And I think to add to it, most of the folks that really, they hear this kind of statements, I believe is the environment of the kids outside the family as well, in addition to at home. For instance, at home, like you might be 100%, involved, but then, let's say they go to school where the environment of the other kids, for instance, they're not well mannered, and they share this kind of you know sad stupid stories. Guess what, they end up learning
Right.
these things, so I think that's what I'm seeing, or whatever we see on the social media. A lot of times you just have maybe, like, I don't know, like the situation is bad in the sense that the the dad seems to be, you don't know much the history of it, but the mom is kind of trying to say, but like, by the way, help the child, and then the child is just, from the language and everything, you can tell that the environment itself doesn't help. So, I
Yeah.
think this is
Well,
amazing, my friend.
man, what a great point because, even in the seven I've raised,
Hmm.
the influence
Hmm.
that smartphones and social media apps, the
Hmm.
influence that that has had on kids, I mean, is such a difference in
Hmm.
raising my first four versus the second three. The second three were so much more highly influenced by social
Hmm.
media apps and what their friends are saying and doing.
Hmm.
I think the powerful thing, though, is if we circle back to
Hmm.
choosing to be intentional
Hmm.
about being invested
Hmm.
and consistent, what that child sees and experiences every day will override
Hmm.
societal mindsets. Because I've heard our kids come home and they'll be like, man,
Hmm.
I thought I had it kind of rough until I was
Hmm.
talking to my friends at school. And then I was realizing, man, I mean, you guys
Hmm.
set me straight, but still, I
Hmm.
mean, man, you're giving me
Yeah.
some flexibility. You're
Hmm.
allowing me to make mistakes and learn from them. Man, I got friends that, man, their dads and moms be just railing on them, just tearing them
Hmm.
up,
Hmm.
vocally and verbally, emotionally abusing them.
Hmm.
I mean, you guys
Hmm.
can be pretty stern at times, but at
Hmm.
least, I know I'm loved. I've
Hmm.
had multiple conversations like that with my kids
Amazing,
where they went to
amazing.
school
Hmm.
hanging out with their friends, and they're like, "Man, I tell you, I thought you were being unfair until I talked
Hmm.
to my friends." You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So I think if we're consistent with it, then
Hmm.
that will hold up under the pressures that society brings on kids to think, oh well, you deserve more than this. That entitled mindset that so many of our young people face today
Right.
because it's driven into their psyche through
Hmm.
social media and music and TV shows and various things that gets into their hearts and minds.
Right, right. Oh man, that's powerful. And I know right now, the in politics and just in society, there is this growing focus on fatherhood as a key contributor to the children's mental health. Uh, what do you think of, like the awareness of fatherhood, how it impacts the child's mental health? I know what you just mentioned, how now that's a perfect example how
Yeah.
they realize how much how much good you have for them, compared to other folks.
Well, like I said, dude, you got all the great questions today, man. Keep them coming. This is awesome. Uh, man, I think the beautiful part about family
Mm,
is that a mother and father bring equal amounts to the table, but they bring different things. And a child needs both. And I think that's why it can be very difficult when we
mm,
see children raised in single family or single parent, excuse me, single
right.
parent homes.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
was raised by a single mother from the age of 5 until I graduated and went out on my own.
Hmm.
So the absence of a father in the home for me
Right.
really impacted my self worth. I didn't believe that
Hmm.
I was, worthy. I thought, man, if my dad really loved me, he wouldn't have
Hmm.
left.
Hmm.
I was the oldest of three,
Hmm.
so we take that on a lot. Studies will show that the
Hmm.
oldest will take on responsibility somewhat for the divorce and different things. So
Right.
children need both parents. They need a
Hmm.
father to help them with identity. They need a
Hmm.
father to help them with self-worth.
Hmm.
No different then I'm a man of faith, and I
Hmm.
believe that where I was able to discover
Hmm.
that worth and that identity was through a heavenly father
Hmm.
that gave me what my earthly father did not. So for
Hmm.
me, it's really about identity and self worth. And I've tried
Hmm.
to, as a stepdad,
Hmm.
I've tried to say, hey, man, this is how I discovered who I really am, and I'm going to
Hmm.
share with you who you really are
Hmm.
based upon the truths that I know. And
Hmm.
so I come at my kids and I pour into them about their self worth and their identity because I think as a father, there's
Hmm.
no greater gift that we can give than
Right.
helping someone discover who they truly are
Right.
because so many people are out there trying to discover that and they're using various ways to medicate their pain, to medicate their inability to understand who they are. And I see it. I've been speaking to people since 1998, dude. I mean, however, 26, 27 years, how long that is.
Hmm.
And I've seen it in all age groups, teens,
Hmm.
20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, on up into the 70s. People are still asking that question.
Results that last? Stop wasting time on quick fixes. A no-fat approach to sustainable fitness, radiant health, and mental well-being is your roadmap to lasting transformation. Learn how to fuel your body, move with joy, and cultivate mental strength, all without the restrictive rules. Start your journey to sustainable success. Download your guide today.
Hmm.
Who am I?
Hmm.
And I think there's no greater gift a father can help than to help a child
Hmm.
discover that early on so that then they don't spend a lifetime trying to discover who am I. They
Hmm.
try to spend a lifetime discovering I know who I am, but what am I
Hmm.
called to do?
Right.
What am I called to create? And then they can spend all that energy
Hmm.
on those things which impact their lives and other people's lives versus this self driven, inner,
Hmm.
uh, driven, maintenance minded
Hmm.
journey of I just want to know who I am. And until then, I'm just wandering around like a zombie.
Or sometimes until too late they don't even know. Amazing. Oh, this is deep, and it's very important. It's very important.
Yeah, because if you don't ever figure that out, then who you're going to marry
Hmm.
is going to be somebody that doesn't know who they are. And now you have two people that don't know who they are that have connected together and they're going to have children and have a culture in the home where no one knows who they are.
Oh my
And now
God.
we're all wearing masks, right? We're living a life based upon what someone said,
Hmm.
who we should be, or maybe something we went through. I was
Hmm.
molested as a kid, so that
Hmm.
jacked with my
Hmm.
understanding once again of who I am. And
Hmm.
so I started to use relationships with
Hmm.
women to try to fulfill this lack of understanding of who I was, right? So it
Hmm.
took me a long time to get to a place where I could have a healthy relationship with a
Hmm.
woman just based upon what I'd been through in my childhood. I didn't have
Hmm.
a father there to say, hey, you've been through something, but this is who you really are.
Right.
So I think the role of a dad is so crucial in the development of a young person's mind and their ability to go through life, the good, the
Hmm.
bad, and the ugly,
Right.
and really have a consistency because they can relax in the fact that I know who I am.
Hmm.
Sometimes good things happen to good people. Sometimes bad things happen to good people, but I
Hmm.
know because of who I am,
Hmm.
I'm gonna be okay either way.
Absolutely. Wow. And what you mentioned is very powerful because your belief is you know that got you understand who you really are, and that gives you the stability. I think is very important because you know for instance, if you look at 12 step, folks that are fighting, the addiction and everything else, you
Mm,
have to have that belief, my friend.
yeah,
You see how it's working. So you have people that, let's say, they do not believe, and then with the 12 step, for instance, they have to establish that. Otherwise
yeah,
it's not going to work.
absolutely. And I think just one of the things I really want guys to hear today,
Mm-hmm.
that may be listening, or even women,
Mm-hmm.
is that I just want guys to stay in a growth mindset. You're not going to know how to do everything up front, right? I'm a
Mm-hmm.
lot better dad now than I was 18 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
but I never wanted to quit learning. I never wanted to quit growing in terms of my understanding of how to parent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I didn't get married the first time, brother, till I was 41. So
Uh-huh.
I had read a bunch of books, I had been to
Mm-hmm.
conferences, I had been to all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But until I got married, and like I said, I married a woman that had 4 children. We had two that lived with us, two girls.
Mm-hmm.
The two boys lived with their father, so I didn't see them all the time. That's
Mm-hmm.
another whole other component that comes into
Right.
being a step parent.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I mean, man, I just got thrown in the deep end of the pool, and I had to learn how to swim. So,
Mm-hmm.
but once again, when we choose to be intentional about
Mm-hmm.
the commitment, and we're constantly looking to become more aware
Right.
of what we need to learn and discover,
Mm-hmm.
then you can pick up on things pretty quick. And then when you take what you didn't maybe receive from your own dad,
Mm-hmm.
right, and that becomes fuel for the fire to be a
Mm-hmm.
better dad to someone else's child,
Right.
right, who becomes your own.
Right.
Man, that's just a whole journey that I want guys to just give themselves a break,
Right.
just breathe a little bit and
Mm-hmm.
know that you're going to have some great moments. You'll have some moments where you didn't come through like you wanted to, but
Mm-hmm.
that's okay.
Right.
Apologize to your child in those moments, and
Mm-hmm.
that way it teaches them conflict resolution and
Mm-hmm.
how to communicate and just get back in the game, right? I can say it like this: you may have a bad moment, but it doesn't mean you need to have a bad day.
Right.
Just get back in the game and start stacking up good moments again as a dad, and you'll see those kids lean into that versus leaning away.
That is amazing. And I am fortunate to hang out with you in our men's group, so I get to learn a lot. And one of our very good friend, he was mentioning about make it end with you. And this is definitely that, in the sense that if you had a bad day, you can always like take a pause and change it. Or if you had a bad childhood, it's not too late. It's not going to be actually overnight that change, but you can start now learning and be better and change it so that your kids then they don't carry forward, because whatever it is we're doing to we're teaching our kids. Guess what? When they become dads, you are the example. So they'll be
Yeah.
doing everything that you're doing. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Absolutely. And I think what guys really need to understand too is you got to take care of yourself.
Hmm.
Men out there are under a tremendous amount of pressure and stress to provide for their families, to be
Right.
that protective covering over their families. And so when guys don't take care of themselves, when they
Hmm.
don't get the right amount of sleep, when they don't
Hmm.
work out in some way, shape, or form, it doesn't have to necessarily be weights, but I mean, go for walks, play
Hmm.
tennis, ride a bike, do something that is keeping you in shape and getting that stress out of your body.
Hmm.
When we don't eat right, we don't get sleep, we don't work out, our self care isn't where
Hmm.
it needs to be.
Right.
We are not the best version of ourself. And if I'm not the best version of myself, I'm not seeking to give love or to give patience to my
Hmm.
children.
Right.
I'm seeking to receive
Hmm.
from my family, not
Hmm.
give to my family. They're not there to make me feel better. They're not there to help my emotional state because I haven't been taking care of myself. So
Hmm.
we have to be consistent with our self care. For me, that's getting up before anybody else does. I get up at 4:30 or 5 a.m. in the morning. Do I like that? No.
Mhm.
Is it a must for me? Yes. I have to
Mhm.
spend time worshiping, reading my Bible, in time in prayer. I work out. I try to get a lot of that done before the family gets up, because once the family gets up, I kick into servant mode, right?
That's right. Oh yeah.
Because as a man of faith, like I said, the Bible says that men, we are to die
Mhm.
for our wives like Christ did for the church. So we have to give ourselves as Christ did for the church. Well, he died for the church. So as
Mhm.
men, we have to die sometimes to our ego and our
Mhm.
pride and just become servants. And
Mhm.
what I've discovered is the more that I serve my family,
Mhm.
the more they want to show up for me. The more that I demand from my family, the more that I'm looking to receive from my family, they fight that. But when I serve them, they're like, "Oh man, Dad, how can I help you? Dad, can I do this for you, Dad?"
Mhm.
Or Mama's like, "Hey, honey, you're so awesome. You're so this.
Mhm.
You're so that."
Right.
The very things we want from our wives and our children will come if we
Right.
serve them first,
Right.
and they respond to that level of love and leadership in a way
Right.
that is so powerful and life
Mhm.
changing.
This is amazing. This is amazing. Actually, this is in terms of the family, even outside, but also in general. A lot of times when you give, guess what? You get more. So you know, wow. I can relate in a sense also that, for instance, I know, like growing up, I always expected much from the dad, and he was really doing his best to like be there as a father figure. Like he was even a doctor at home, like not necessarily a doctor, but he didn't have to go to the doctor's office to do, let's say, if I have a little bump by my buttocks or something. You know how
Right.
he takes care of it at home. He was doing everything. He was all in. So that was a great example, and you always trying to do that and better. So I think what you mentioned is very powerful in a sense that when you serve God,
Mm.
whatever, because I'm told, this is one thing I liked about being in this public sphere is that, you know oh, why you didn't talk about my religion, why you didn't talk about. So I'm trying to, okay, so if you serve
Yeah.
God, in your
Yeah.
belief, when you have some, higher power in front of you, and you do better with that, I think at the end of the day, you become a better person, because you're coming in a position of a servanthood. You're not going to come,
Mm.
I think this is a very powerful position, because those people that are always being, you know very, they put themselves first. Those people suffer in relationships, because in
Yes.
relationship you have to give in order to get something back. So it's not good to be narcissistic and all about you, while you have kids and your wife. They should be, it should be all about them.
Yeah, it's a map to a dead end street. You know,
Yes.
the narcissistic
Hmm.
mindset of I'm going to get mine, I'm going to get mine. And unfortunately,
Hmm.
for young men,
Hmm.
especially that will be dads in the next few years, a lot of the songs and the media
Hmm.
and the TV film and things that they watch and they ingest
Hmm.
into their hearts and minds gives them
Right.
one message:
Mm.
get yours, get yours, get yours. It's all about, get that bag,
Right.
get your
Uh-huh.
body count up with the
Hmm.
girls. That will probably not
Hmm.
play well 2 3 years from now, because people won't know what that means. They'll have another term for
Right.
how many people you slept with. But
Uh-huh.
I just feel for them, because it's a tough time. I mean, young men deal with more information
Hmm.
coming at them
Right.
in 2024 than ever before in the history of mankind, due to these
Cell
things that
phone.
we carry.
Yep.
When I was growing up, brother, at midnight the TV turned off and there
Hmm.
was static. There was
Right.
no more TV after midnight.
Hmm.
Now everything's 24/7, 365 coming at them. A
Hmm.
really interesting stat
Hmm.
I heard years ago
Hmm.
is that in today's world, a 10-year-old boy or 10-year-old child is dealing and having to deal with what a 15-year-old was dealing with just a few years ago.
Wow.
That's the level of information that's coming at them that is forming the
Hmm.
way they think, their belief systems, and all of that.
Right.
I believe
Hmm.
that God said, "I'm going to create you in my image."
Hmm.
Right? I'm gonna copy
Hmm.
myself. And I believe as a parent, when we come with that consistent, intentional love, and we say, look, I'm invested, I'm
Mm-hmm.
all in with you,
Mm-hmm.
what you'll see over time is you will see you coming out in your children through their choices and even behaviors. Just the other day, my son and I had gone somewhere. He's almost 18 now.
Mm-hmm.
And he started laughing. I said, "What are you laughing at?" He goes, "Man," he goes, "every time I turn around," he
Mm-hmm.
goes, "I see myself walking like you. I see myself talking like you."
Oh
He
man.
says, the cadence and how you
Mm-hmm.
talk, the phrasing, the
Mm-hmm.
words you use. He goes, "I just keep hearing you come out of my mouth."
Oh,
And we both
amazing.
started dying laughing. And
Amazing.
this is a young fella that I didn't come into his life until he was 6, almost 7 years of age. So I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
even there in
Mm-hmm.
those early years,
Right.
right? That psychiatrists will tell you truly form the
Mm-hmm.
hardware
Mm-hmm.
or the motherboard of a child's brain. Here
Mm-hmm.
I come in later, but due to my level of investment
Mm-hmm.
and him trusting that, he has leaned into this relationship in a way where
Mm-hmm.
I have rubbed off on him. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's such a cool thing as a dad to see, because the
Yes, sir.
kids are making better choices, and they say some of the things you say and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I just said that."
Right.
Um, that's been one of the coolest dad moments I've had. Another one, if I could share,
Please.
is when my now 21-year-old daughter came to me
Mm-hmm.
um, when she hit 18, and
Mm-hmm.
she said, I want to take your name.
Mm-hmm. Oh
I want
man.
you to adopt me."
Mm.
And I was like, wow, that's a
Mm-hmm.
huge thing,
Mm-hmm.
and she said, yeah, I really thought about it. She says, when
Mm-hmm.
I graduate college, I want
Mm-hmm.
your last name on the
Amazing.
diploma. When I
Mm.
walk down the aisle on my
Mm.
marriage certificate, I want
Mm-hmm.
your last name as
That's the love.
my maiden name. And we had a whole celebration. We threw a huge party.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I even did, since I've never had a child of my own, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've never had the baby reveal where
Mm-hmm.
they blow something up and it
Right.
shows a
Right.
color.
Mm-hmm.
So we even did that, as
Oh
crazy as that
man.
is, with her being grown, so I could act all surprised that I was
Yeah.
getting a girl. We had a lot of fun. So I've had some amazing dad moments.
Mm.
But here's the thing. Now,
Yes.
this is what I want dads to hear.
Right.
When I ask their mother to marry
Mm.
me,
Mm.
I want them to have that picture of a very happy 18-year-old daughter saying,
Mm.
"Stepdad, I want you to be my dad now. I'm going to call you dad.
Mm.
I'm not going to call you by your name, because
Mm.
stepdads, we get a lot of times they'll call us by our name. They'll be like, 'Hey,
Mm.
Sean.'"
Mm.
I became dad to her. She started
Mm.
calling me dad. But I want
Mm.
them to hear this part of this journey.
Mm.
When I asked their mom to marry me, I did
Mm.
not do it in a way where I think most people would. It wasn't just her and I.
Mm.
I brought the children into the room,
Mm.
and I said to them in that very moment, I said, "I want to marry your mother, but I want you to know that I'm not committing only to her, I'm committing to all of you." Well, the two younger ones were like, "Yay!"
Mm.
The oldest, who would become, 6 years later,
Mm.
my adopted daughter,
Mm.
she was furious. She didn't like it. She
Mm.
didn't like me. She didn't want me in the family. She didn't want me in the house. And the next 2 to 3 years were very contentious, very difficult. She really struggled in
Mm.
her childhood in a
Mm.
lot of ways. She struggled with some substance abuse and various things. And
Mm.
we butted heads a lot because
Mm.
I was coming in and having to establish a culture.
Right.
And where I did love with a lot of grace and mercy, I was
Mm.
also going to say there's boundaries,
Mm.
and you're not going to disrespect your mom, who's now
Right.
my wife. That
Right.
may be your mama, but that's my wife. So we
Right.
we have
It's
to have
another
a
level. Yes. Mm. Right. Right.
you'll be
Mm.
long gone. It'll still be her and I.
Mm.
We butted heads a lot, and there were some
Mm.
arguments and
Mm.
and a handful of fights. Probably could count on one hand. There were
Mm.
some really tough moments, and I wanted to share that because that's the truth. I don't want to come on here and just act like, oh, I had it all figured out and everything
Right.
went smooth. Oh
No. No.
no,
No.
no, 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 no.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've dealt with what everybody's dealt with. Kids that don't
Mm.
like you, kids
Right.
sneaking in and out of the house, all
Mm.
kinds of stuff they struggle with.
Right.
And so I just remember the time that I just said, I'm going to keep bringing consistency.
Mm.
because they've never had that in their life based
Absolutely.
upon my wife's first marriage and how toxic it was, the
Mm-hmm.
environment that
Mm-hmm.
her ex-husband created.
Mm-hmm.
He was an addict, and so it was a lot of dysfunction and toxicity in the home.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I'm going to keep being consistent, and at some
Right.
point in time, she's going to trust this. And eventually, it took a few years, but eventually she did. And I'll never
Right.
forget the time she came and sat down
Mm-hmm.
to her and wanted to talk to her mom and I,
Mm-hmm.
and she lost it. And brother, she was just crying hard. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
bawling.
Right.
And she's like, I'm so sorry for
Mm.
everything I put you both through.
Right.
I'm sorry that I didn't get what you were offering me,
Mm-hmm.
but I do now.
Mm-hmm.
I get it now. I just didn't see it back then. I was too young and immature. And so, parenting is a long game.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Right.
not a sprint, it's a marathon.
Mm-hmm.
And we just got to keep loving on these kids as best we know how, keep growing, keep learning. And I believe in the end,
Right.
it will pay off.
Absolutely. Oh, that's that now, for instance, if you do have somebody approaches you and they would like to learn from you with that experience itself, I mean, you should have enough material for any situation they might come across. This is beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Like I said, man, I've just tried to be a student of life.
Hmm.
I like
Right.
to say this, I'll be 60 in
Yeah.
2025. And I,
Hmm.
I like to say it this way. I look back about every 5 years, every time I hit a birthday that's at that 5 year, like 50, 55, 40, 45. I always look
Hmm.
back and go, man, I didn't know nothing 5 years ago.
Right.
Right?
Right.
It's like, I
Hmm.
know next year I'll look back and go, at 55, I thought I knew it all. I didn't
Right.
know enough.
No.
At 50, didn't
Hmm.
know. And I've been doing that now since I was like 20. When you
Right.
look back and go, man, at 16, I didn't know nothing.
What's the secret, by the way? You do not look that age you just mentioned. I think you're just joking with us.
Man, thank you. You're my new best friend. No,
Oh
I
man.
appreciate that, man.
Hmm.
I think just trying to do the best we can to keep our hearts and minds and our
Hmm.
bodies in a
Right.
place where we take care of them.
Hmm.
I eat better now than I ever have.
Hmm.
For a long time as a single guy, like I said, I didn't get married till I was 41 the first time, so I
Right.
ate bad, like a bachelor
Hmm.
would.
Right.
But I've always worked out. I've always been very active, and I think being active is very important.
Right.
Also, where I didn't read hardly at all
Hmm.
from graduation of high school until the age of 30.
Hmm.
From 30 on, I've been an avid reader. So I've really
Right.
tried to help my heart and mind stay healthy. And I
Right.
think that people underestimate
Hmm.
the power of staying healthy in our emotional and intellectual states.
Hmm.
Because when we're walking around, we're fighting anxiety
Hmm.
and depression.
Hmm.
And, the cortisol, the stress hormone that gets released in your body is so hard on you. It
Hmm.
makes it hard on your body to filter out toxins from the environment and the
Right.
foods and different things
Hmm.
like that. So we
Right.
just age quicker based upon, that we're kind of walking with all this heavy weight. So
Right.
I try to get that out of me. Like I said, whether it's my body or
Hmm.
my heart or the way
Hmm.
that I'm thinking, I'm
Right.
constantly looking for ways to grow that and
Amazing.
shift that. And I think that's helped with my overall energy and
Hmm.
all of that over the last several years. So I appreciate you saying that, man.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you, my friend. And I think you mentioned, because I was going to ask you, how do you build that trust, in the big family like that? And I think like you just mentioned, how much you had to stay consistent and pour that love, and in the end, you show the magic of everything changing towards you, and this is beautiful. And I think a lot of like listeners and parents will learn from that, because even your biological kids, they can give you hard time, like because of the
Oh
environment.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the quickest places I learned
Hmm.
about being totally invested is before I got married the first time.
Hmm.
There were a few years that I
Hmm.
worked on psych units,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
These were lockdown psych units with teenagers,
Hmm.
and they were kids that had really been through a lot in life.
Hmm.
And I would go on these units, and I would ask the nurses,
Hmm.
who is the child that's giving you the most trouble right now?
Hmm.
And there'd be like 20 right on the unit.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I would go out and I would start talking to that one kid. And they would look at me and they'd be like, man, what? You ain't got nothing to say to me. You
Right.
don't care about me.
Uh-huh.
Why you messing with me, man? Just let me just do my work. Let me clean my room. Let me do my homework. Just quit talking to me, man.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't. I'd be like, come on, man, what's your story? Talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want to trust me, but the more that they saw, maybe this guy's different. Maybe he really does care.
Mm-hmm.
And once they saw I was invested in them getting better, because what they were going through, for the most part, wasn't their fault,
Mm-hmm.
right? They had parents that made choices that had impacted their lives.
Right.
So I would share with them, look, it's not your fault, but it is your fight. What are you
Mm-hmm.
going to do about it? But when they would discover that I was invested in their lives, even though I didn't know them,
Mm-hmm.
they would lean into that. And once I had the toughest kid on the block trusting
Right.
me, all the other
Mm-hmm.
kids would line up and we would have
Right.
peaceful situations where kids could really heal and grow. So I took that.
Tired of fads and frustration? Build sustainable wellness for life. Forget quick fixes that fail to deliver lasting results. Imagine feeling energized, moving confidently, and radiating health for years. Achieving true wellness isn't about exhaustion or deprivation. It's about building habits that fit seamlessly into your life. Invest in yourself today for lasting fitness, radiant health, and mental well-being. Ready to transform your life? Click here to learn more. By purchasing the book, you'll gain lifetime access to updates, newsletters, future editions, and exclusive wellness bonuses from the author. Start your journey to wellness now.
That experience and what I learned there, and I applied that to parenting, realizing that, we just have to continue to commit.
Right.
And some children will respond faster than others. Some kids may be more strong-willed or strong-minded. They may fight it for longer.
Mm-hmm.
But I tell you, man, I just don't know, of a situation at least that I'm close to where if you stayed committed to the long haul and show
Right.
that you were invested to the long haul, eventually a child
Mm-hmm.
will come around and hopefully take that life lesson into their adulthood
Mm-hmm.
so that they're having an easier time with who they're choosing to be in relationships with and
Right.
all those things. Like I said, we never want to be the type of person that looks for outside influence to fill the holes in our heart.
Right.
So our job as parents are to raise them up in a way that gives them the best opportunity to go live a peaceful, successful, powerful life. Because life is going to throw curveballs
Right.
and life is going to give you some potholes.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as you know who you are
Right.
and and you just believe in that, then I think a child has a good shot at making it and having a pretty good life. And that's to me what parenting and being a dad
Mm-hmm.
is all about.
Oh, this is amazing. And thank you so much for everything that you have shared. Is there any other secret you'd like to share with dads how to maintain that wellness and, like the personal growth along with the family? Because sometimes, one thing I was mentioning to my prior guests when we were chatting is about when you're doing things, if you're praying, thankfully, I'm glad you do that. And, when we pray or we read our books, whether it's a Bible or Quran or any other book, like whatever book you're reading, like you show them your activities. Show them, oh, by the way, I'm reading, I am praying. You're not doing that as a show off, but you're not trying to hide it
Yeah,
in front of them.
absolutely. And
Mm-hmm.
like I said, once again, another phenomenal question. So there's two things I'd like to point out. One is
Mm-hmm.
let them see you
Mm-hmm.
embracing your own growth.
Right.
Like you said, there's times I want them to see me reading
Mm-hmm.
my Bible. I
Mm-hmm.
want them to see me praying,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? I want
Right.
them to see me reading other books
Mm-hmm.
that are helping me with my leadership or my personal development. I
Right.
want them to see me working out.
Mm-hmm.
But I also want them to see me
Mm-hmm.
teasing and
Mm-hmm.
laughing with their mother. I want them to see me having fun in the
Mm-hmm.
home. Create family time. In
Right.
today's world, where there's so many distractions,
Mm-hmm.
there's never been more distractions than there are right now. You have to create family time, whether that's playing games at the
Mm-hmm.
table or watching a movie together or going on a walk together.
Right.
There are times you're going to have to say to your child,
Mm-hmm.
put that down,
Right.
don't pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
You can have it in 2 hours. We're going to sit down as a family. We're going to watch a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll be over there. I'm telling you, man, it's amazing. Like a meth addict, man. They'll be over there shaking, having withdrawal symptoms, not able to get on their phone.
Right.
But at the end of the time, they're going to love the fact that you spent family time.
Right.
Try to have try to have dates with your kids. Take
Mm-hmm.
your sons to lunch or breakfast or dinner. Take your daughters
Mm-hmm.
to lunch or dinner or breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
Teach them how to behave. Teach your sons how to treat a woman. Teach your girls how to be treated by a man.
Right.
Boy, when young fellas show up at this house and they try
Mm-hmm.
to honk the horn, and one of
Mm-hmm.
these girls go running out, I'm like, where are you going?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's
Right. We're good.
here.
Uh-huh.
Well, then he needs to come to the door.
Right.
You know, he's not gonna roll up in here and honk this horn. He lost
Mm-hmm.
his ever loving mind. So we have to teach them how to be treated, how to be
Exactly.
loved, right?
Absolutely.
But really, and
Mm-hmm.
make sure to inject
Mm.
humor
Right.
into life
Mm-hmm.
because kids have to learn that life is not easy,
Mm.
but it can be simple.
Right.
When we understand there's going to be mountaintops and there's going to be valleys, and we just got to keep going. But
Right.
there's always something beautiful and
Mm-hmm.
humorous in
Mm-hmm.
life if we just look for it. But I
Right.
try to teach my kids to have fun, to
Right.
keep that childlike wonder about life.
Right.
Watch the butterfly, play with the puppy, do
Mm-hmm.
those things that make you happy, laugh, and smile because
Right.
that helps you get through the tough times, right? So I try to interject a lot of humor,
Right.
let them see me being a real person.
Mm-hmm.
I think the more they see us as real people, the more
Right.
believable we are
Right.
as parents, right? They're not seeing us as a percentage of who we are. They see us laugh, they see us cry, they
Mm-hmm.
see all of the above, and
Right.
they go, man, I can be real. I don't have to
Mm-hmm.
hold these things in or
Right.
compress my emotions down.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want guys just to know that just be real,
Right.
be believable.
Mm-hmm.
Bring some humor to the table.
Right.
Let them see you live your life because they'll
Mm-hmm.
trust that and
Right.
they'll learn faster from that than anything you can ever say to them, right?
Right. Right. Oh, boss, there are so many things, in this growth mindset that is always behind, that is haunting me at the moment. So I've learned, a couple of things, like one of them is about, to support you about, you know, your last, like your son, how from the age of 7 and now is like 100% everything is perfect. The way that the way I can associate with that is like I have learned how, you know in is in Islam, where I was raised back home in Tanzania, they were teaching us like you don't make your child do the prayers until the age of 7.
Mm.
This is like a prophet, Muhammad, he that said that. So because of that, I'm like, 7, age 7. So now I understand, I guess from age 7 it's easier to mold the child, like in a sense, like you let them be kids, don't force them. I think this is a great lesson for us as dads to not be too hard on kids, like you mentioned, because you
Right,
want them to kind of be observers now, like, oh yeah, this is how dad rolls, this is how mom rolls. Because
right,
after age 7, then you start putting your foot down a little bit. Excuse me, you have to, that doesn't fly by. I mean, you can still teach them when they're kids like that, but I think from age 7 you're gonna start being a little bit more firm. Not. So I think I was just I had that my that that I had, I just remembered that situation. That's why I'm like, you know what? Let me share this because that's the whole
yeah,
purpose of us doing this. Because, I'm realizing how much, you know, how much life is very precious. Like,
yeah,
we lost a family member not too long ago, and I'm like,
yeah,
um, many things we have inside us we don't share, so our kids do not know,
yeah,
our friends do not know. So I'm like, let me, from now onwards, any situation or scenario that happens in front of me, I will share, because this will be
right,
the I want this to be an open book to our kids, when we're going, oh yeah, I heard
yeah,
them speaking about this. So I think this is
yeah.
amazing.
I think so. I mean, as they get older,
Hmm.
we open up the playbook more, right? To use a
Yeah.
sports analogy, right? When they're
Right.
young, there's a few like when a child is 2,
Hmm.
we can teach them to share,
Right. Oh yeah.
right? Yeah, we can teach them to share.
Very
We can
tough.
teach them about we can teach them about the power of yes and no. We can teach them not to lie. We
Hmm.
can teach them to accept people,
Hmm.
you know. But there's certain things you can't teach them at 2. You have to wait, right? You
Right.
can't teach
Right.
them about money at the
Mm-hmm.
age of 4,
Right.
right? I mean, not really. I mean, you can't teach them how to drive a car
Mm-hmm.
until they're, 15, 16.
Mm-hmm.
So there are things as they get older, we start to open the playbook up and teach them more about life,
Right.
how to budget, how to
Right.
do different things.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that prior to the age of, 7, there's still a lot that we can teach them.
Mm-hmm.
My wife, believe
Mm-hmm.
it or not, when I met her, I was blown away because all of her kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were 6, 7, and 10.
Mm-hmm.
They all, this is gonna blow your mind. They
Mm-hmm.
all did their own laundry
Amazing responsibility right there. Yes.
because at age 5, she
Right.
started to teach them to do their own laundry. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
mean just like take it and
Mm-hmm.
throw it in there and put some soap in there. I
Right.
mean separate the
Mm-hmm.
colors from the
Nice.
whites.
Yes.
I mean, this is how you do it. Putting it up. She taught them at a very early age to do their own laundry,
Mm-hmm.
to cook food.
Right.
I mean, because she would teach them before the age of 7. When you
Mm.
talk to an adult, you
Right.
look them in the eyes,
Right.
you shake their hand.
Right.
I mean, she was starting that early on, and now
Mm.
they're all like, it's really strange how even as young adults they've been doing this for years,
Right.
and they're
Mm.
comfortable and confident in having a conversation with an adult.
Right.
So there's a lot that we can teach them, but you're right. As they get older,
Mm-hmm.
we start opening up in
And be a
terms
little
of
bit more
different.
firm.
Yeah, 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 for sure, for
But
sure.
that, this is amazing, and I'm glad, we as dads, we can always go on and on and on, and
Yeah,
maybe I can share, if it's okay with you, one more thing with with my journey. My
sure.
wife, I'm very fortunate in the sense that I told you recently we lost our beloved grandma, from my mom,
Mm,
like my wife's side. Um, she was everything my wife is. Like, she did not like to eat out. She likes to cook her stuff at home and all those things. Guess what? My wife is like that. See?
mm.
So I mean, so kids learn, they take from you, so now actually I'm just benefiting because I don't get to eat out a lot, like we eat out, yes, but we don't
Yeah,
eat the junk food as much outside because we
right.
have this food that's been cooked with love by the queen right at home, so
Yeah, yeah,
my friend, this is amazing, man. This is amazing. Wow. um Boss, so really, thank you so much for sharing this. And I'm in a journey, like you mentioned, growth mindset. I am
yeah,
trying to grow, as and do better, share more. I want to be, like you mentioned, thank you so much for encouraging me because you've been there
yeah.
yourself, as way before me. So thank you so much for doing this. Let me see if there's any queries from folks, because
Okay,
we're live. Don't see.
we are live.
But there's no queries at all, my friend. I'm not surprised, but you know what? With time, once I become big
That's
shot like
because
yourself,
we've answered all the questions. They're
that's it.
shocked. They're stunned right now. They're taking notes, going, "Man, I got to get busy." So good job, brother. Your questions were perfect.
Thanks,
It
sir.
allowed me to address a lot of issues that us
Thank you.
dads and stepdads deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I speak,
Mm.
I wear red socks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, people ask, why do you wear the red socks? Because it's about legacy.
Okay.
My
Okay.
grandfather, my
Mm-hmm.
papa,
Mm-hmm.
was a minister, a preacher for almost 40 years. And
Mm-hmm.
he was this 5'9" Italian guy who was a really sharp dresser. And he wore
Using his
fancy
hands.
socks, fancy ties.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh man,
so I wear the red socks because they remind me of him and the
amazing,
legacy that he
amazing.
passed down about loving people. And
Right.
people are important and people matter.
Mm.
So, it's all about legacy and us, when we leave this earth,
Mm-hmm.
that hopefully our children and our grandchildren will continue to impact lives in a powerful way.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, my friend, for allowing
Thank you,
me to come
sir.
on,
Thank you,
your
sir.
show and just share my heart about being a dad. And
Yes,
I think
sir.
it's a powerful idea you have here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited for you, man.
Thank you so much, sir, my friend. I truly appreciate you for sharing great stuff, and I'm sure folks, once they listen, they will learn so much, and the people that they're not in a situation or they're in the situation, they will learn from it and become better, better people and better, dads and moms. Because this is a lesson not just only for us dads. So this is a wrap
Yeah.
for today episode. Thank you so much. If there's one thing that we have learned about is that fatherhood, it goes beyond like the biology. It's about showing up, being present, and
Mm.
creating the legacy of love and support. Um, and being there. No, I think the consistency of it is amazing what you shared. And also, you also remind us that the blended families can just they can be not just as strong, if not stronger, than traditional
Oh
one.
yeah.
Yes, sir. And if if you're navigating similar paths, remember, being a great dad isn't about your start. It's about how you build your relationship along the way. So
Yes.
thanks so much, guys, for tuning in. And as always, keep piecing together your best dad life, one puzzle piece at a time. Thanks so much, people. Thank you, sir. Amazing.
Man, great job, dude.